My name is Harvey Klein. I'm 47 years old. On September 19th, I died during a presentation in a downtown Seattle high-rise. But before I tell you about what happened after I died, I want to tell you about the man I was before it all. I lived on the 27th floor of a glass building. Not at home, at work. It felt like I lived there most days. My office had big windows that looked out over the city. People would say, "You've made it, Harvey." Good job, good salary, corner office, vice president of operations at a rising tech company. I wore suits that were tailored and smiled like I meant it. But the truth is, I was tired. Not just in my body. My soul felt thin. You might know what that feels like. Waking up before the sun, already behind on emails, drinking coffee that tastes like burnt toast, sitting in traffic wondering if today's the day you finally just keep driving past the exit for work, then pretending everything's fine, because that's what people expect. I used to think success would feel better than this. At home, things were quiet. Too quiet. My wife, Marley, had stopped asking how my day was. She used to, every night. We'd sit on the couch with cups of tea and she'd listen. But now, I'd come home and the TV would be on, the kids in their rooms, and she'd just say, "Dinner's in the microwave." We'd been married 18 years. I loved her. I still do. But somewhere along the way we became polite strangers. We didn't fight. We just drifted, like two ships slowly floating in different directions. And the kids, Sophia's 16. She barely spoke to me unless she needed a ride or a signature. I missed her school play last fall because I had dinner with a client from New York. She didn't cry. She didn't even get mad. She just looked at me like I wasn't real anymore, like I was a ghost in her life. John's 13. He still talks to me. He thinks I'm some kind of superhero, or he used to. One night I came home late again, another emergency at the office, and found him waiting on the stairs in his pajamas. He looked up at me with those big brown eyes and asked, "Dad, do you love work more than us?" I laughed at first, but he didn't. He just looked down at his feet and went to bed. I stood there for a long time holding my briefcase, feeling like the worst person in the world. It's strange, isn't it? You chase something your whole life. Success, stability, respect. You sacrifice for it. You give your best hours, your best energy. And then one night, you're sitting in your kitchen, staring at a cold plate of lasagna, realizing you can't remember the last time you laughed with your family. Maybe you know what it's like to check your phone at dinner more than you look at the people across the table. Maybe you've sat in the parking lot outside your own house just trying to gather the strength to walk through the front door and pretend to be present. Maybe you've told yourself, it's just a busy season, for 5 years straight. I wasn't a bad man. I paid the bills. I never cheated. I thought I was doing what a good husband and father should do: provide, protect, produce. But somewhere along the way, I confused providing with replacing. I tried to fill the gaps with gifts instead of time, answers instead of presence. My best friend Tom, he used to call me every month just to check in. We went to college together. He was the one who convinced me not to drop out junior year. We used to talk about starting a company together. But I got busy. I stopped calling back. Last I heard, he moved to Oregon and started building furniture, real stuff, with his hands. Sometimes I'd scroll through his photos online and wonder what it would feel like to build something that didn't disappear in an email thread. My health had started to slip too. Nothing dramatic. Just little things. Stomach pain, sleepless nights, a strange flutter in my chest every now and then. The doctor said it was stressful. "You need to slow down," he told me. I nodded, promised I would. But of course I didn't. How do you slow down when the whole machine depends on you keeping pace? At night, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling. Marley is asleep beside me. The kids' rooms are quiet, and I'd think, is this it? Is this what I worked so hard for? A big house, a shiny title, a family who doesn't really know me anymore. The morning of March 17th was like any other. I left the house before sunrise. Marley was already up, packing John's lunch. I told her thanks. She nodded. That was all. Sophia was at the table with headphones in. She didn't look up. I kissed the top of her head anyway. I had a big presentation that day, investors flying in from San Francisco. It was supposed to be a career-defining moment. I practiced my slides all night, drank too much coffee, and skipped breakfast. As I stood in front of the polished glass boardroom wall, talking about market shares and future expansion, I remember thinking how strange it was that I couldn't feel my fingers. Then the room tilted. I heard someone shout my name. Then nothing. Just silence. People think dying is dramatic, but for me, it was quiet, like someone dimmed the lights and pulled a curtain. I didn't feel pain, not at first. I felt tired, so deeply tired. Like every cell in my body had finally decided it was done pretending. The last thing I saw was the skyline through the window, Mount Rainier in the distance, half covered in clouds. I thought of Sophia's face at her school play. I thought of John's question. I thought of Marley standing at the sink, humming a song I couldn't remember. And at that moment, I didn't care about the slides or the numbers or the investors. I just wanted to go home. But I didn't go home, not in the way I thought. Because that was the moment everything changed. That was the moment I left my body behind and found myself somewhere else entirely, somewhere more real than anything I'd ever known. They say your life flashes before your eyes when you die. That didn't happen for me. What happened was stillness. One moment I was standing in front of a room full of people trying to remember my next slide, and the next, I wasn't there anymore. It's hard to explain. My body collapsed. I know that now, but I didn't feel the fall. I didn't hear the panic or the shouting or the chairs scraping back. I didn't hear anything at all. It was like someone hit mute on the world. And in that silence, I felt a strange awareness, like I was still present, but not in the way I'd ever known. At first, I panicked. Where am I? Why can't I move? Why can't I feel anything? But then something shifted. The fear was there for a moment, heavy and sharp, like being trapped under ice. But just as quickly as it came, it faded. And what replaced it was something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the kind of peace you get on vacation or after a deep breath. No, this was deeper. It was like my soul had been holding its breath for decades, and now, finally, I could exhale. I realized I wasn't in my body anymore when I looked down and saw it. It was a strange thing, seeing myself from above, like watching a scene from a movie where you already know the ending. There I was, slumped over, eyes half open, people rushing around. Someone was yelling my name. A woman was on her phone, probably calling 911. Someone started chest compressions. But I felt no panic watching it. I felt separate, like none of it was mine anymore. And yet I also felt sadness. Not for myself, but for them, for Marley, for the kids, for the people in that room who had no idea how empty I'd felt inside. I remember thinking, is this how it ends? Not with a goodbye, not with closure, just silence and fluorescent lights. But then, something changed. The room started to dim, not like turning off a light switch, more like fading into something else. The walls dissolved, the noise faded completely, even the weight of gravity seemed to disappear. And then I was moving, not walking, not flying, just being carried, lifted. The best way I can describe it is floating inside light, but not harsh or blinding. This light was soft, warm, alive, like being wrapped in sunlight that knew my name. I didn't know where I was going, but I wasn't afraid. There was no time, no direction, just presence. And then, the presence changed. I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't see a figure right away, but I felt him. It was like every cell in whatever I was now could sense something pure approaching, like love was moving toward me in the shape of a person. And then I saw him. Jesus. He didn't look like a painting. He didn't look like anything I'd ever seen in church as a kid. But somehow I knew, immediately, it was him. He was clothed in light, not white light, living light, like it flowed from him, not onto him. His eyes, if I can call them that, were the deepest expression of love I've ever seen. I don't even know what color they were because color wasn't the point. It was a feeling. Looking at him was like every part of me that ever felt unseen was now seen, completely, and not judged, just held. I broke down, right there in front of him, without words, without excuses. I just collapsed. Not physically because I didn't have a body, but my soul just knelt. And he came closer. He didn't speak out loud. He didn't have to. His presence was communication. He knew me, not me. I showed the world. Not the VP, not the polished guy in the expensive suit. He knew the scared, tired, lonely version of me, the one who stayed up at night wondering why his daughter didn't talk to him anymore, the one who kept replaying his son's question on a loop, the one who used work to avoid facing what he was really feeling. And he loved me anyway. Maybe you know what it's like to carry shame you don't even fully understand, the kind that builds up slowly over years of silence and missed moments. Standing there, or floating there, or whatever it was, I felt all of it come to the surface. And he didn't turn away. He looked right at me, and I felt the words, "I see you. I've always seen you." That's when I wept. Not tears from my eyes, I didn't have a face, but a weeping from somewhere deeper than I knew existed. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to perform. I didn't have to be strong or smart or successful. I was just me, and it was enough. Jesus reached out, again, not with hands, but with presence, and wrapped me in something I can only call home. It felt like going back to where I'd come from before I was born, a place I'd forgotten but always longed for. All the stress, all the pressure, all the ways I'd failed, melted, gone. And what remained was love, unshakable, unexplainable, undeserved, but mine. I don't know how long I stayed there, in that space outside time, held in perfect peace, known completely, loved entirely. There were no questions, no doubts, no regrets. I didn't think about missed meetings or forgotten birthdays or deadlines or dinner plans. I thought only about how I never wanted to leave that place again. I remember saying to him, though I didn't use words, "Please let me stay." And he smiled, not with lips, with presence. But he didn't answer, not yet, because there was more he needed to show me. That's when the light around us began to shift, not fade, but open, like a curtain slowly drawing back to reveal something deeper. I sensed we were about to go somewhere else, somewhere beyond even this peace. And though part of me still wanted to cling to that moment, to stay wrapped in that love, I also felt ready. Because with him, I wasn't afraid of anything anymore, not even what came next. I don't know how long I was there in that place of peace, with Jesus. Time didn't seem to exist. There were no clocks, no sense of before or after, only now, only him, and being in his presence. It was like standing in the middle of the sun and not being burned, just warmed, filled, known, loved. I didn't want to move. I didn't want him to stop looking at me. Because in his gaze I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't feel disappointed. I just felt safe. But then the space around us shifted. It felt like a breeze passing through light. And somehow I understood. He wanted to talk to me. Really talk. Not just spirit to spirit, but heart to heart. He turned slightly, and we began to move. Not walking, but being drawn together into a new space. It wasn't a room. It wasn't a place at all in the way we think of places. But it felt intimate, like a quiet garden where no one could interrupt. He didn't speak with lips, but his voice filled me like a deep song I'd always known but forgotten. "Harvey," he said, "you were never alone, not for a moment." Those words hit something deep. I didn't even realize I had been holding on to that pain until he said it. All the nights I came home to silence. All morning Marley didn't say goodbye. All the birthdays I missed, the dinners I ruined by checking my phone, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, no one really needed me outside of work. And now Jesus was telling me, "You were never alone." I broke. I would have fallen to my knees if I had knees. He let me cry. He didn't rush me. He didn't say, "It's okay now." He let it come out. The shame, the guilt, the regret. All the things I kept buried so I could keep functioning. And when the sobbing in my soul began to quiet, he spoke again. "You believed love had to be earned, but that was never true." Maybe you know that lie. Maybe somewhere along the way, someone made you feel like love was a reward. That came after the performance, after proving, after perfection. That's how I lived. I worked hard to earn love, to be good enough for Marley, to provide so Sophia and John would be proud, to be the son my parents dreamed of, to be the kind of man society claps for. But in the end, all I got was exhaustion, and distance, and Jesus. He cut through all of that with one simple truth. You are loved because you exist, not because of what you do. I felt his sadness then, not disappointment, but sorrow, not for himself, for us, for all of us chasing love like it's something far away. This world teaches people to run, he said, run for more, run for better. But what they truly need is right beside them. I saw flashes in his presence then, not visions exactly, more like feelings tied to memories. I saw a dinner table with everyone on their phones. I saw a father watching his daughter's recital through a screen instead of with his eyes. I saw a mother cooking meals no one thanked her for. I saw children in bedrooms wishing their parents would knock and just be there. Families sit under the same roof but live in different worlds, he said gently. This was never my design. I felt him grieve, not just for my story, but for millions of others, children who never hear "I'm proud of you," spouses who sleep back to back in silence, people who ache for connection while pretending they're fine. The enemy doesn't need to break homes with violence, Jesus said. He just needs to distract them, make them too busy, too tired, too proud. I nodded, or whatever the soul version of nodding is, because I knew I had lived that exact life. Then he turned his gaze back to me, and it was full of something I didn't expect, hope. But I am always making a way back. I speak to my heart, even when my ears are closed. I reach for the tired, the distance, the forgotten, and I call them home. Tears filled me again, because I realized something I had never understood, even in my worst moments. God was calling, gently, patiently, lovingly. When I stood outside Sophia's bedroom, too ashamed to knock, when I looked at Marley and felt like a stranger in my own marriage. When John asked me that painful question, I had no answer. God was there, not angry, not disappointed, but whispering, "Come back. It's not too late." I looked at Jesus then and said the first full thought I had since arriving, "I don't want to leave you." And I meant it. How could I go back to a world of alarms and meetings and unread messages after this? How could I leave perfect love? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he moved closer. And when he spoke, his voice was full of something stronger than peace. It was for a purpose. There are children walking through darkness, Harvey. Not just the young, but the grown-up children too, lost in their own homes, blind in their own hearts. They need to know I'm still reaching for them. I didn't know what to say. I felt small, unworthy. Like I had already failed the people closest to me. How could I help anyone else? But he looked at me with so much love, it hurt. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. I felt something rise in me, not pride, not pressure, just readiness, like a candle realizing it could still be lit. And then, softly, he said, "Go back and love them the way I love you." I wanted to say no. I wanted to stay. But I also knew deep down that his love wasn't just for me to feel. It was for me to share, with Marley, with Sophia, with John, with the friend I stopped calling, with the man who feels invisible in his own house, with the mother wondering if her prayers even matter anymore. Jesus placed something in me then, not an object, not a mission plan, just presence, his love, his words, his heart. And as I began to feel the pull, back toward the world, back toward my life, I heard him one last time. Tell them I see them. Tell them it's not too late. Tell them I love them. And then I was moving again, not away from him, but towards something. Light shifted, sound returned, and my first thought was simple. Let me do it right this time. The first thing I felt was pain, heavy, sharp, loud. It was like crashing through a sheet of glass and waking up in the middle of the wreckage. My chest ached. My throat burned. I couldn't move. Voices were everywhere, urgent, panicked, medical. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. I tried to hold on to the light, to the warmth, to him, but it was slipping, like trying to grasp a dream with wet hands. I wanted to go back. I really did. I wasn't afraid of death anymore. I had tasted perfect love. I had seen the eyes of Jesus. I had felt his peace wrap around my soul like a home I never knew I missed. So yes, for a second, I grieved, not for my life, but for leaving that place behind. But then I remembered his words, "Go back and love them the way I love you." And I knew why I was here. Recovery was slow. The doctors called it a widowmaker heart attack, said I was lucky, said it was a miracle. I didn't correct them. I just nodded, because I was a miracle, not just alive, but changed. Coming home from the hospital felt like walking back into a world I didn't quite recognize. Same walls, same furniture, but everything felt different, brighter, softer, more alive. John was the first one to hug me. He held on tight, arms around my middle, head buried in my side. "I thought you were gone," he whispered. I pulled him close and said, "I'm not going anywhere, buddy, not anymore." Sophia stood back at first, arms crossed, guarded. But I looked her in the eye and said, "I'm sorry I missed your play." Her lips pressed together. She didn't say anything. So I added, "It won't happen again. Nothing's more important than being your dad. I mean that." She didn't hug me that day. But the next morning, I found a drawing she'd left on my nightstand. Just a doodle of the three of us, me, her, and John, smiling under a tree. I hadn't seen one of those since she was 10. And Marley, she was patient, quiet, watching me with cautious eyes. I couldn't blame her. Words are easy. Promises get broken. She'd seen years of late nights and forgotten anniversaries. So I didn't give her speeches. I just started showing up. I washed the dishes. I sat with her after dinner. I asked about her day and actually listened. Some nights we just sat in silence together. But even that silence felt more real than any words I'd spoken in years. One evening, I reached for her hand on the couch. She didn't pull away. I stepped down from my VP role 3 weeks after coming home. People thought I'd lost my mind. "Take some time off," they said. "You'll be bored." But I wasn't bored. I was awake. I didn't want a bigger office or a bigger bonus. I wanted breakfast with my kids, walks with my wife, long talks with Tom. I called him, by the way, first time in 10 years. We talked for 2 hours. I wanted to feel my life again. We started doing things we never made time for, board games, family hikes, movie nights with popcorn, and phones turned off. I even joined Sophia on a volunteer trip. She helps at a youth shelter now. Watching her laugh and pour cocoa for kids with no home, it undid me. She has so much love in her. I just never made space to see it. John and I started building model rockets together. Our first one exploded sideways and hit the fence. He laughed so hard he fell over in the grass. These moments, they don't look impressive on a resume, but they're everything. My health is still a journey. I walk more. I breathe deeper. I say no to meetings that don't matter. Sometimes I sit in the backyard and just watch the leaves move in the wind. It's like I can feel heaven in little things now. And something else changed, too. I see people differently. The tired cashier who forgot to smile, the kid screaming in the grocery store aisle, the husband zoning out on his phone at dinner. I don't judge anymore. I wonder what weight they're carrying. I wonder who's waiting for them to come home, not just to a house, but to a heart. And sometimes I pray for them right there in line or at a stoplight. I live slower now, not because I'm lazy, but because fast made me miss the point. Every day I ask myself, am I loving like Jesus today? Sometimes I get it wrong. I still get impatient. I still check emails too much. But I catch myself quicker. And I come back to what matters. If you're reading this, maybe you're like I was. Maybe you're working hard, keeping it all together. Maybe everyone thinks you're doing great, but you lie awake at night wondering why you feel so far from joy. Maybe you're trying to love your family but feel like a stranger in your own home. Maybe you're chasing success but feel more lost with every step forward. Can I tell you something? It's not too late. Jesus sees you, not the version of you try to be, but the real you, the tired you, the hurting you, the you who feels invisible in a room full of people. And he's not disappointed. He's not angry. He's just saying, come home. You don't have to die like I did to wake up. You can choose now, today. Look your child in the eye. Call the friend you've been avoiding. Put the phone down and hold your spouse's hand. Say, I'm sorry. Say, I love you. Say, I'm here. I'm still Harvey Klein. I'm still 42. I still live in Seattle. But I don't see life the same way. I walk through each day with an eternal perspective, knowing this world is not the end, but a beginning, a gift, a chance to love better. I know now what matters most isn't what we build, but who we build with. And I carry Jesus with me, not just as a memory, but as a companion. His words echo in everything I do. Tell them I see them. Tell them it's not too late. Tell them I love them. So here I am, telling you.